Hello, everyone. Welcome to another chat with Charlotte Mason Coast to Coast. I'm Amy Snell, and I'm a mom of 5 living on the East Coast. And I'm with Celeste Cruz, who's a mother extraordinaire to 9 children on the West Coast. And we are excited to be with you all, and thanks for tuning in.
Hi to all of you. We are so glad that you've joined us as we consider the duties we have as Charlotte Mason educators and the delights that are in store for us as we embrace this philosophy of education with a thinking love. Today's topic is something that we get asked a lot and is something that came up many times in the CMEC Retreat: how to do school with little ones underfoot. The littles in our homeschool can be, for some of us, our biggest challenge, but they, like all of us, are persons, and that is the primary principle that we want to use to govern our interactions with them. So today we're going to talk about how we can shape our days to respect the personhood of the little people in our home while still managing to get lessons done with the older children in our household. First, I think if we consider Mason's suggestion for how children in this stage ought to be spending their time, that would help us to answer the question of how to structure their days in a way that is going to be joyful for them and for us. If you have read Volume 1, for example, you'll see that she really highlights 2 main things that young children should be doing during those early years: time outdoors and habit training. And part of respecting toddlers as persons is really understanding the things that they need for their growth and then trying to provide that. So Amy, how do you privilege getting those outdoor hours for your little ones?
Yes, well, of course, we all know that study after study shows what Charlotte Mason knew, and moms who are astute and recognize that when we take our children outside, all of us of all ages feel better mentally and physically. And before children can capably do their schoolwork, it's important that they develop their large motor skills, their fine motor skills, that they have this control over their body. And we can see that for many children who are not getting this time to play and time outdoors, that they have a much more difficult time. Mason says then we want to set up these relationships. She calls them dynamic relations and elemental relations. And this is in Volume 3. She writes, "There are what I may call dynamic relations to be established. The child must stand and walk and run and jump with ease and grace. He must skate and swim and ride and dive, dance and row and sail a boat. He should be able to make free with his Mother Earth and to do whatever the principle of gravitation will allow." And then she continues, "Another elemental relationship, which every child should be taught and encouraged to set up, is that of power over material. Every child makes sandcastles, mud pies, paper boats, and he should be able to make with his hands and should take delight in making." And so I think sometimes when we have our little ones inside, we can just see that they just need to skate and swim and ride and dive. And when we are not giving them that space, then we start to have these difficulties. It's what they desire to do and what is good for them at this stage.
Yeah, and when they have access to those natural materials and the free play and movement that they can have outdoors, what's great is that we don't need to invent things to keep them busy and occupied, and we don't have to micromanage them like we might need to do in the home. Inside, there's not the freedom that they have outdoors. In the retreat handbook, there is a great article called The Homeschool Room by Christine Shar, and this is what she writes: "When a child's mind first becomes active, it should be stored with information suitable to his understanding and sufficiently interesting to hold his attention. But what teacher adapts herself to the needs of a little child so bountifully as the great mother of all teachers, nature? She alone will hold him spellbound when all else fails. This will prove to be the foundation of those habits of observation and attention, which are of untold value in all the undertakings of the boy, the student, the man busy with the affairs of life. When children have the freedom to jump and run and all of that, things that in the home they would be considered kind of mischievous and destructive. Outdoors, that is their natural state. And so they are happier and occupied, and that can allow us to do lessons. I know I send my littles outdoors right after breakfast, and they spend a couple hours running and digging and all that. And then they nap so much better too. So it just leads to a good routine for the day for them and for me.
And the other thing that I've seen with my children is this component that we wanted to highlight of habit training is, again, something that when they're very little, they very naturally love to do. They want to help around the house. They want to be big. They want to be part of the family culture. And they like to feel that they have real work to do. So what I have found is that, you know, when they're babies, we're carrying them with us around the house. You know, they're very close to us, and so then that we just keep that as they can crawl and toddle and come along with us, and include them in our morning chores. So they can, you know, right now my 2-year-old, she helps me put the pillows on my bed when I'm making the bed. She, you know, helps fold laundry, and sometimes it actually is a help now that she's 2.5, and other times, you know, after she walks away, I may help, you know, her a little bit more with the way that she's folding the washcloths or something like that. She has, at 2, she's unloading the silverware and can put them back in the right spot. She carries the bathroom trashes to our main trash. And our youngest always we have them to be in charge of dusting the baseboards. We call them the dust catchers. And, you know, they're so small and close to the ground that it's like the perfect thing for them to do, to go along and get the dust catchers. And honestly, I don't know if they would be done if it wasn't for the 2-year-old in our house. So during this time, then we can fill up their love tank, we can talk with them, and it builds in them then this sense of closeness to us, but then also a confidence in their capabilities. They know they matter to the world. I remember being so worried when I had my second child, and then third and fourth and fifth, that they, you know, weren't getting this one-on-one time. But what I have found is that what children really need the most is the presence of their mother and family and being in the home. And so I didn't need to come up with these special activities, any, you know, these things for them to do, special games. They were part of the family culture, and that was giving them and feeding the needs that they had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I found always that keeping my little ones close, I mean, not only do they eventually become a help in the chore department, and that's great, but it also keeps so many other issues at bay, like, you know, that enthusiasm to get into things that they ought not, and that sort of thing, because they really do have this real need to be, you know, experimenting with things. But when we can do that, when they can do that alongside us in real work, it, you know, it just handles so many issues in itself. So not only is it keeping them close and having them part of the family culture, but it's also building those habits, like we talked about with the nature study, where they are learning, you know, observation and accuracy and truthfulness and all of that through these little this little work that they're doing alongside us, and us modeling those things with them. So it's both joyful in the home, and then also habit training. But we still do need to get lessons done. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about, you know, we have all these goals then for our little ones and how to spend their time. How do we manage that alongside actually doing lessons with the older kids? What are some tips that you have, Amy?
Yes, well, I really try to stop for each season that we're in, because I think there's a difference between a 12-month-old, an 18-month-old, a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, right? What they need, it can change, and then what the older ones are doing. So I have done it in different ways, but the way it's working for us right now is that I've actually extended our school day, but then each of the older kids has time with the youngest. And so it's worked really well that all of them are having this really cute bonding time. Molly, our 2-year-old, will say, Clara, Rara, my best friend, and then Emma, my best friend, and Mama, my best friend, and so that's so good for my big kids to know they have a best friend in the world who loves them no matter what, or as long as they share, snacks and things like that with them. And so then during our weekly meeting, I talk, and we have that weekly meeting video that we can link below that we talked about. But when I spend time with each of the older children, we can talk about how's your time going with Molly, and what is it that you want to do with her this week. So they take her out to the sandbox, they take her on her bike ride, a little nature walk around the yard collecting like fall leaves, or they'll go on a bug hunt, or one of them is reading the Burgess Bird book, so they go out with binoculars and look for birds together. So that's how we get lots of outside time. And then I do know that on Tuesdays we have our nature club for the afternoon, and she comes along to that. And at our Charlotte Mason Co-op on Fridays, the little ones are outside for the whole afternoon as well. So I have the visions of, now that I've done Mason and for all of these years, that she could just to have this perfect forest school day all the time, and that's not possible because we need to do school, but we have found these ways that she still can have lots of outside time. And so I know you too have come up with a creative way to be able to get outside with, and because you have, now it's turned, right? You have 5 doing school and 4 still that are not school.
Yeah, if you count my kindergartner, so I have 3 that are definitely preschool age, and it's 3 little boys, ages 1, 2, and 4, which is maybe my biggest challenge in terms of the preschool ages that I've had, not in closeness, but in the fact that they are all boys. It's been a little different for me. And I think the key here, like, I don't do it the same way that you do, but I think both of us are really setting up our schedule to not be always pushing our little one aside, where they spend like half their wake hours, being hushed because we're trying to do school, but then also not letting them, be the one in charge of the household. Like there's this balance where we're acknowledging their needs, but then they also know that they're part of a family. And I think it's really nice when we're able to hit that balance. I have always had a lot of little ones in the home, but I too have to revisit it season by season of how I'm going to keep them occupied. But 2 things have remained constant, which is one, they get outside in the mornings, like I said, and basically my little ones go out, including my Form 1 kids, and then I have a little bit of time with my Form 2 daughter, and then she goes out. And I have a little time with my Form 3 kids, and then they go out, and then everyone has a break outdoors. So that I take advantage of that time kind of by staggering it, so I can get some independent work with the older students, and then the little ones, we kind of just see them right out the window. But I also have my Form 1 kids out there playing with the toddlers, which is really helpful because I just can't send the little ones out all by themselves. And then the other thing that we've always done is we have a large chunk of our school during nap time. Nap time here is 12 to 2 p.m. and has been for years. And having those 2 hours, I can really do most of our quiet schoolwork during those 2 hours. So I really privilege things during that block that I feel like I need quiet and sort of full attention, like hands-on kind of things. So we would do handicrafts maybe in that slot, but definitely we do math and my readings for my Form 1 and Form 2 kids this year. I like to read aloud when it's quiet and there isn't a lot of background noise. So I've always done that during nap time. And then anything that we can do with the little runs around, we do. So I try not to put in that block things like you know, folk song and then Swedish drill and solfa. My little ones love doing Swedish drill and solfa, so those do not go in the nap time block. So I try to purposely schedule those during the times when the littles are awake. So I think just giving some thought to which lessons really need that quiet time and which lessons can be done with the whole family together or with little ones, you know, alongside is so helpful in being able to complete lessons while not always feeling like you have to hush your toddler in the corner. So that has been our approach, and it's worked really well this year.
And I think too, like I've often tried to think if they are in the schoolroom, okay, if I'm giving a reading lesson, can they play with the letter tiles? And Mason talks about that for young children. Or can they have the buttons as counters during math time? So to try to think of like what they can sit and look at their own books when we're having our reading time. They can color when we're working in our nature journals or doing brush drawing or something like that. So rather than trying to come up with a brand new creative activity or activity bags, things like that, it just is helpful that, you know, and then they do feel like, oh, I'm doing my math, or and so I, you know, wouldn't do that if I was only at home with my youngest ones, because I don't think they need those kind of formal activities, but it's a natural way to include them in that school morning time.
Yeah.
So, but we would love to hear from all of you of what it is that keeps your toddler and your little ones busy during your school time. If you have any tips that works well, we would love to hear about how you manage your homeschool room with little ones. And thank you for joining us. And if you're new to our channel, don't forget to subscribe. And if you hit the little bell, then you will be notified when our new videos come out. So thanks for joining us.